BBC News with Sue Montgomery. The Football World Cup has begun in Qatar with a lavish opening ceremony and a humbling defeat for the hosts. They were easily beaten by Ecuador 2-0. Before the game got underway, world leaders were among the guests, who watched a show featuring fireworks, music and speeches promoting unity. Here's our sports correspondent, Alex Capstick.
It was a really excited opening. When we got here very early, there weren't many people at the Al Bayt Stadium. It's well out of town, 40 kilometres north of Doha, in the desert really. Not much here apart from our magnificent stadium. The Al Bayt Stadium is designed like a Bedouin tent. It really is very, very impressive. A huge structure right in the middle of the desert. When fans did start arriving, they were really looking forward to this event. Most of them Qataris, of course, and most of them very proud of what their country has done. They didn't want to talk about all the negative aspects in the build-up to this tournament. They wanted to talk about what an achievement Qatar had done by building these new stadiums and all the infrastructure around that in time for the World Cup.
The captain of Iran's World Cup football team has controversially voiced concern about the political crisis in his country. Speaking in Qatar, Ehsan Hajsafi said conditions in Iran are not right and the people are not happy. He also expressed condolences to grieving families in Iran as anti-government protests there continue. A leader of Argentina's renowned human rights group, the Mothers of Plaza de Mayo, has died at the age of 93. The Argentine government has declared 3 days of national mourning. Leonardo Rocha reports.
The group was founded after Ebe de Bonafini and other mothers got together in the late 70s to look for their children who opposed Argentina's military government and had gone missing. The mothers met weekly outside the presidential palace in Buenos Aires at Plaza de Mayo, defying the authorities. They were arrested several times but returned every Thursday afternoon for vigils. Ms. Bonafini was never able to locate her 2 sons. Some 30,000 people are estimated to have been killed by the security forces during military rule in what became known as Argentina's Dirty War.
Israel's Prime Minister-elect Benjamin Netanyahu is facing calls from Orthodox religious parties to permit sex segregation at public events. Here's Mike Thompson.
Segregating males and females would currently fall foul of Israel's discrimination laws, but that isn't stopping Orthodox religious parties pushing for it. Such a move would mean separate classes for men and women at state-backed educational institutions, as well as separate seating at concerts and plays, and on some buses. Mr. Netanyahu is under pressure to agree because he needs the support of religious and far-right parties to form a coalition government.
BBC News. President Biden has said that Americans cannot and must not tolerate hate after 5 people were killed and 18 injured in a shooting at a gay nightclub in the state of Colorado. Mr. Biden said that although the motive was not yet clear, violence against LGBT people had to be driven out. A soldier and 2 police officers have been injured in a rocket attack in the Turkish province of Kilis, just inside the country's border with Syria. On Saturday, Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces had pledged to retaliate for Turkish airstrikes on their bases in northern Syria and Iraq. More than 30 Kurdish fighters were killed. Kazakhstan's leader, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, appears to have tightened his grip on power with a landslide victory in presidential elections. Exit polls suggest he won at least 82% of votes on Sunday. No other candidate reached 10%. With more details, here's our Europe regional editor, Paul Moss.
The Kazakh president wants to be known as a reformer, yet Kassym Tokayev's steps towards democracy have been faltering at best. Back in January, anti-government protests left more than 200 people dead. Though there's been no bloodshed reported today, journalists say police detained demonstrators who'd called for free and fair elections. There were tough restrictions on who could stand for the presidency. Election observers have warned about limits to free expression. And assuming Mr. Tokayev wins, recent constitutional changes mean he'll have a 7-year term in office.
The leaders of French-speaking countries have held a summit on the Tunisian island of Djerba to discuss growing instability in Francophone Africa. The head of the group, Louise Mushikiwabo, said there were long debates about the main conflict zones. BBC News.